Ancient stories whispered from one generation to the next, tales of something lurking beneath the surface, watching, waiting. Among the most infamous was the legend of the Kappa, a creature said to dwell in the dark depths of the river and the forest lake nearby. With a body part human, part turtle, long gangly limbs, and a dish of water embedded into the crown of its head, the Kappa was rumored to lure people into the water and drown them, especially those who dared to trespass near its sacred lair. The elders of the village often warned the younger generation not to approach the river after sundown, especially on nights of the full moon when the mist rolled in thick and the currents turned strange. Over the years, there were stories: men who vanished during late-night fishing trips, children who strayed too close and never returned. The community responded with offerings and rituals, but fear lingered like a fog that never truly lifted. But times were changing. Smartphones and the internet crept even into this rural corner of the world. Teenagers grew increasingly skeptical of the old stories, dismissing them as superstition or tools of control. Among them was Akira, a headstrong, fearless 17-year-old with a sharp mind and a restless spirit. With his messy black hair always tousled by the wind and a gaze that never flinched, Akira had no time for fear, especially fear based on shadows and folklore. One hazy evening, as the sun melted behind the hills and twilight embraced the river, Akira stood on a flat rock by the water, surrounded by his closest friends. The fading light painted the scene in muted gold and silver. He spoke with the confident defiance that had become his trademark. "I'm tired of hearing these ghost stories. Every time someone disappears, people scream Kappa and panic like we're still living in the Dark Ages. Don't you see how ridiculous this is?" His friends exchanged uncertain looks. There was Kenta, tall and broad-shouldered, though his courage often wavered under pressure. Riku, the quiet observer of the group, always carrying an old video camera to document what others might miss. And finally, Aya, Akira's childhood friend, a thoughtful, cautious girl who balanced Akira's recklessness with her intuition. She often spoke little, but when she did, her words lingered. Aya frowned, arms folded over her chest. "Akira, don't be reckless. There's a reason people fear that place. My grandfather never spoke of it directly, but I saw the fear in his eyes when the lake was mentioned." Akira waved a dismissive hand. "I'm not denying that something strange might be going on, but there's only one way to know the truth: we face it. We go to the lake where the Kappa is said to appear. If there's nothing there, we'll prove it's just mass hysteria." Kenta swallowed hard, clearly uncomfortable. "You're really serious about this?" Akira nodded, tightening the laces on his shoes, eyes locked on the dark water. "We'll head into the forest tomorrow. Riku will bring the camera. Aya's got her grandfather's map and books. We'll film everything. If nothing happens, maybe people will finally stop being afraid." There was a long pause. The night wind blew cold across the water, sending ripples across the surface like a whispered warning. Aya stared at Akira for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then she sighed softly. "If you're going, I'm going too. But we need to plan carefully. We stay together and we return before midnight. No exceptions." Akira smiled faintly, almost proud. "Deal." The next morning, the group gathered near Akira's grandfather's old house at the edge of the forest. It was a half-forgotten place, weathered by time, with moss growing on the roof and cracked windows staring blankly at the woods beyond. They loaded their backpacks with essentials: flashlights, dry food, a small camping stove, tents, spare batteries, notebooks, and the charms Aya's mother had insisted they carry. Aya had also packed an old notebook filled with local legends and her grandfather's notes. Their journey began early in the afternoon. The trail wound deeper into the forest with each step, the trees growing thicker and taller, their twisted branches interlocking above to form a canopy that swallowed most of the sunlight. Birdsong gradually gave way to eerie silence. The scent of wet earth, moss, and decaying leaves filled the air. Aya walked near the back of the group, methodically tying red ribbons on tree branches as they passed a safeguard in case they needed to find their way back quickly. Akira led confidently, map in hand, his strides purposeful. Hours passed. The deeper they went, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. Eventually, they emerged into a clearing where the trees parted to reveal a lake still and glassy as if frozen in time. A soft mist hovered over its surface and the surrounding trees stood like sentinels, watching silently. "This is it," Akira murmured. "This is where it's all supposed to happen." The lake was unsettling in its perfection. There were no ripples, no sounds of frogs or insects. Even the air felt heavier here. Aya moved closer to the water, her fingers tightening around the charm her mother gave her. Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. "My grandfather used to say that on certain nights, the lake changes. He said if you get too close, you might hear your name being called from beneath the water." Rika set up his camera, filming everything from the still water to the shadows among the trees. "This place gives me the creeps," he muttered, half joking but visibly tense. They set up their small camp a short distance from the lake. A fire was lit, casting flickering shadows across the trees. They shared food, talked about mundane things, trying to lighten the mood, but the forest seemed to listen to every word, every laugh, every breath. As night fell, the moon began to rise, a perfect silver disk in the sky. The mist over the lake thickened, creeping toward the shore like fingers made of smoke. The fire crackled softly, but the air had grown icy. Akira stood abruptly, brushing the dirt from his pants. "It's time." Riku grabbed the camera. Kenta, flashlight. Aya, the map and book. "Let's see what this legend is made of." Aya hesitated. Her instincts screamed at her to stop, but she followed anyway. The others were already walking toward the water's edge, the mist swirling around their ankles. As they approached, a strange stillness fell over the clearing, so absolute that even the crackle of the fire behind them seemed distant. Riku aimed his camera at the lake. Kenneth swept the flashlight across the surface, but the beam only seemed to disappear into the fog. Then, a faint sound broke the silence, a ripple, followed by a strange, wet breathing like something large exhaling beneath the surface. They froze. Aya clutched her charm tighter, heart pounding. "Did you hear that?" No one answered. The camera was still rolling. The mist thickened. Another ripple. Closer this time. Then a low, guttural noise, not animal, not human. Something in between. Something ancient. Kenna's hand trembled as he pointed the flashlight at the spot, but there was nothing to see, only mist and water. Akira took a step forward, peering into the darkness. "Is that someone swimming?" Suddenly, the water near the shore exploded upward as something large moved beneath it. They all stumbled back in shock. The flashlight clattered to the ground. The camera jerked wildly as Rika turned, breathing hard. And then silence again. Nothing remained but the ripples gently moving outward from the shore. The mist thickened, coiling low around their feet like it had a mind of its own. Visibility dropped to just a few meters, and every sound, every breath, every rustle was swallowed into the dense silence of the forest. The lake, which had once appeared peaceful and still, now stretched out before them like a dark, endless void. The air was heavy, cold, and carried a scent of stagnant water and something else, something ancient. Then it began. A low, bubbling noise echoed somewhere out on the water. It was soft at first, like air escaping from beneath the lake's surface. But it grew louder, closer. It didn't sound like anything natural, nothing like fish or water currents. Riku raised his camera, aiming it toward the source of the sound. Kenta's grip tightened on the flashlight, his knuckles pale. Aya took a step back, her voice barely a whisper, asking if they had heard it too. Akira, standing at the front, inhaled deeply, then shook his head, trying to maintain calm. He insisted it was just the water, that big lakes like this had all kinds of underground movement. There was nothing to worry about. The words had barely left his mouth when the lake erupted. Right in front of them, something black and massive rose from the water, breaking through the smooth surface like a nightmare surfacing from the depths. At first, it looked like a wet, misshapen boulder. But then, details emerged. A slick, turtle-like shell, slime-covered limbs, and two glowing red eyes that pierced through the mist like fire in the dark. Resting on its head was a bowl-shaped indentation, filled with still, glistening water. None of them moved, not out of courage, but out of pure, paralyzing fear. It was real. The Kappa. Its body was covered in grayish-black skin, glistening like it had just crawled from the bottom of the lake. Its arms were long and sinewy, with webbed hands that flexed and curled as though ready to grab anyone who got too close. The creature's breath hissed through its jagged, amphibian teeth. Then it spoke. The voice was deep and inhuman, like it echoed from the depths of a drowned world. It said they had finally arrived and that no one could escape this place. Kenta nearly dropped his flashlight. Rika stumbled backward, camera shaking in his hands. Aya gripped Akira's arm so tightly her nails dug into his sleeve. The air itself seemed to tremble with fear, but only one among them stood firm, Akira. Though his heart pounded against his ribs like a drum and cold sweat beaded on his skin, he stepped forward, just a little, but enough to show the creature he wasn't backing down. He asked what the creature was, why it was taking people, and what this place really was. The Kappa tilted its head, water in the bowl on its crown swirling but never spilling. Its red eyes glowed brighter, boring into Akira like it was peeling away layers of thought and memory. It declared itself the guardian of the threshold between their world and the one beneath. Those who trespassed had to pay the price. Aya was trembling now, her eyes wide with panic. She muttered that they shouldn't have come, reminding Akira she had warned him. But Akira didn't flinch. Curiosity had long been replaced by responsibility. He had brought his friends here. If something happened to them, he would never forgive himself. Clenching his fists, he forced down his fear and told the creature they had no intention of trespassing. They only sought the truth. If someone had to face consequences, it should be him. Kenta panicked, urging them to run, calling Akira insane. But no one moved. The Kappa stepped forward, rising from the water completely, each movement slow and deliberate. Water dripped from its limbs, pooling at its feet. Though it wasn't enormous, it radiated a power far beyond its size and ancient, unnatural strength. The ground seemed to vibrate with each step it took. Aya, hands trembling, pulled something from her backpack, a charm her mother had insisted she carry. She raised it high and, through shaking lips, began to chant a protective verse from one of her grandfather's old books. The Kappa paused. Its eyes narrowed as it looked at the charm, its mouth curling into something between a grin and a sneer. It mocked their talismans and prayers, claiming they would not save them. Akira instinctively stepped in front of Aya, shielding her with his body. He whispered that they had to find a way to fight it. Running wouldn't help. They needed to understand it and send it back to wherever it came from. A sudden gust of wind tore through the clearing, strong and cold like a warning from the lake itself. The fire near their tent flickered wildly before being snuffed out entirely. The lake behind the Kappa began to churn. Waves formed where there had been calm, and something deep beneath the surface shifted. Rika turned to Akira, his voice trembling, asking if this was just the beginning. Where were they now in the story? Akira stared at the creature, eyes fixed on the glistening bowl atop its head. He replied that they were the ones who stepped into the dark, and only the light they carried inside would lead them back out. The Kappa let out a roar, deep and guttural, like thunder rolling from the bottom of the earth. Above them, the sky began to darken unnaturally, as if something far beyond their understanding had begun to awaken. The surface of the lake was eerily still, reflecting the pale moonlight like a vast, unbroken mirror. The group stood at the water's edge, their breaths shallow and hearts racing. Akira, leading the group, felt a chill run down his spine as he scanned the dark waters. Aya, standing beside him, clutched his arm tightly, her eyes wide with fear. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by a loud splash. From the depths of the lake, a massive, grotesque figure emerged. It was the Kappa, its greenish, scaly skin glistening under the moonlight, eyes glowing with malevolent intent. With a horrifying screech, it lunged toward the group. Akira instinctively pushed Aya behind him, his heart pounding in his chest. The Kappa's claws slashed through the air, narrowly missing Akira's face. The creature's powerful limbs propelled it forward, sending waves crashing against the shore. One of the group members, unable to react in time, was swept off their feet and dragged into the water. "Help!" the person screamed, their voice barely audible over the roar of the waves. Akira turned to see his friend struggling against the current, but before he could move, the Kappa's massive hand shot out, grabbing Aya by the ankle. With a swift motion, it yanked her into the water. "Aya!" Akira shouted, diving after her. He reached out, his fingers brushing against hers, but the force pulling them down was too strong. The water enveloped them, dragging them deeper into the lake's cold embrace. Akira fought against the current, his lungs burning for air, but the pressure from below was relentless. From the depths, the Kappa's voice echoed in their minds, chilling and mocking. "All of you will become my souls," it intoned, its tone filled with dark amusement. Akira's vision blurred as the water around them darkened, the light from above fading into nothingness. He held onto Aya, refusing to let go, even as the darkness consumed them. When Akira and Aya regained consciousness, they found themselves in a vast, pitch-black space. The air was thick and heavy, filled with a palpable sense of despair. The only sound was the faint echo of their own breathing. As their eyes adjusted to the darkness, they saw them, hundreds, perhaps thousands, of glowing red eyes staring at them from the shadows. The eyes belonged to the souls of those who had fallen victim to the Kappa, their bodies lost to the depths, their spirits trapped in this eternal limbo. Aya clung to Akira, her voice trembling. "Akira, I don't want to die here." Akira squeezed her hand, his own fear masked by a surge of determination. "We won't die here," he whispered fiercely. "We will find a way out." Suddenly, from the surrounding darkness, figures began to emerge. More Kappa, their grotesque forms illuminated by the eerie glow of the trapped soul's eyes. They moved with unnatural grace, their eyes fixed on Akira and Aya. The Kappa circled them, their movements synchronized as if preparing to strike. Akira stood protectively in front of Aya, his fists clenched, ready to fight. But the Kappa did not attack. Instead, they watched, their expressions unreadable. Akira's mind raced. He knew they couldn't defeat the Kappa through brute force alone. They needed to understand the creature to find its weakness. He recalled the stories from his childhood, the tales of the Kappa's bowl, the depression on its head that held water. If the water spilled, the Kappa would lose its power. But how could they use this knowledge to escape? As if reading his thoughts, one of the Kappas spoke, its voice echoing in the vast space. "You seek to escape," it said, its tone both mocking and sorrowful. "But there is no escape. You are already mine." Akira's heart sank, but he refused to give in. He turned to Aya, his resolve hardening. "We will find a way," he said firmly. "We will not become part of its collection." The Kappa surrounding them began to move closer, their eyes glowing brighter, their presence overwhelming. But Akira stood tall, his determination unwavering. In that moment, he realized that the true strength lay not in physical power, but in the will to resist, to fight against the darkness, no matter how overwhelming it seemed. And with that realization, he prepared to face the Kappa, to uncover the secrets of the lake, and to find a way back to the world above. Dragged down to the bottom of the lake, Akira and Aya felt the coldness envelop their bodies. Despair was slowly taking over as the darkness consumed everything around them. They had no strength left to resist, and the other Kappa were crawling closer, their sharp teeth gleaming in the dim light. Aya was on the verge of giving up, overwhelmed by hopelessness, too exhausted to struggle any longer. But just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a sudden burst of light pierced through the thick dark waters, pushing back the shadows. This light was powerful and radiant, forcing the darkness to retreat. The Kappa shrank back in fear, driven away by the strength of the light. Akira and Aya, as if saved in that very moment, felt an invisible force pulling them upward. The water around them gradually parted and the light began to grow, lifting them to the surface. They were thrown onto the water's surface like leaves falling from a tree, tired and drained, but still alive. Akira breathing heavily, looking up at the sky as the first rays of dawn shine through. "We made it, but what we saw down there, it's not just a myth." At this moment, they looked back toward the lake, where the Kappa and the souls beneath the water still waited, silently watching. The lake was now calm, as if nothing had happened. But the light that had just appeared couldn't erase the traces of fear that lingered in their minds. Akira and Aya were utterly exhausted. They lay on the shore, trying to catch their breath. The light of the morning gradually began to ease the chill of the night. But they could never forget what had happened. Kappa, its voice echoing from the darkness, unseen but unmistakable. "We'll meet again." Both Akira and Aya jumped at the sound, exchanging nervous glances. That voice still lingered in their ears, a chilling reminder that the danger was far from over and something was waiting for them beneath the lake, souls that had never left, monsters watching and waiting for the next opportunity. The story of the Kappa doesn't end here. The souls beneath the water, the unanswered mysteries, and the ominous words "we'll meet again" still hang in the air, unanswered. But Akira and Aya were lucky enough to survive, carrying with them an unforgettable memory of what happened under that lake. This could just be one of many stories you've never heard of, and perhaps creatures like the Kappa still exist somewhere. Will we ever uncover the truth about them? Or will they forever remain haunting, unanswered questions? If you enjoy these chilling stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any videos. Be sure to hit the notification bell to stay updated on thrilling, suspenseful tales like the Kappa and other mysterious creatures you may not have known about. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.